I had a client recently come to me for a home birth after 4 C-sections. Her pregnancy was completely uncomplicated. She went into prodromal labor around 40 weeks, and it just was on and off, until she just got so tired that she went in and had an elective repeat C-section. Now, those of us who offer TOLAC with the goal of VBAC have experienced this protracted labor, protracted second stage, 4 to 5 hours of pushing. It's a pretty typical thing you see once the uterus has been incised. But with everybody focusing on the risk of uterine rupture after a prior C-section, I am really thoughtful about how we counsel around primary C-sections given many of these observations. So let's talk about what happens when we transect a muscle. If I were to transect your left biceps and then repair it, it's never going to be as strong as it originally was, and certainly not as strong as your right biceps, which has been left intact. Now, although that is skeletal muscle and the muscle comprising the myometrium of the uterus is smooth muscle, I think that there's something we could take from this example. After we've incised the 3 layers of your myometrium, which on the outside is longitudinal fibers, which do the brunt of the work in delivering a baby through the pelvis, you also have a middle layer, which is kind of an interconnected woven net, and then you have an inner layer of spiral musculature. For some women, after they've had a C-section, especially if they're diabetic, if they're severely overweight, if they have some sort of inflammation in their body at all times, they're probably not going to heal as well as other women. This is not a blame and shame conversation, this is just physiology. So while some women have a very successful TOLAC, other women have a really hard time having a baby after a C-section, but this isn't really being talked about in the literature. The muscle is weaker even with an adequate repair. Transected and repaired muscles are simply not going to be as strong as muscles that have always been intact. Could some of those longitudinal fibers after a C-section be retracted and not adequately restored back at the hysterotomy site? Why not? So when we are talking about the risks of C-section, we talk a lot about the neonatal and maternal bond. We talk about the postpartum recovery. We talk about the risk of uterine rupture in future pregnancies. We talk about abnormal placentation. But maybe we should also be talking about the nature of injured and repaired muscle in this extremely laborious process of childbirth in subsequent pregnancies too. Interested in your comments.